Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny and we live and garden here in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today is the day I'm going to be putting my seed potatoes into my vegetable garden. I'm following the advice of Gary Pilarchik from the Rusted Garden Homestead YouTube channel. So if you have any questions about what I'm doing, I might invite you to go watch out for Gary's channel, The Rusted Garden, and that explains why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thank you, Gary, for the inspiration. Today, seed potatoes into the soil. Let's get this going. I have a few different kinds of potatoes that I'm going to be putting into the soil. Almost all of them I bought from Lowe's as seed potatoes. They come in packages kind of like dahlia tubers or spring bulbs. And these are red Norland is the variety. There's 4 of them in there, and they do have some nice sprouts coming from their eyes, so that's good news. Now I also bought some Kennebec, which are white potatoes, and it was the same kind of package as the red Norland, but for the white Kennebec, I cut them in half. Pretty simple to do. You just inspect the potato and look for those sprouting eyes, and then you make a cut kind of to make sure that every cut that you cut off has some of those sprouting eyes to grow from. It's pretty easy, and it didn't take me long to do all 4 of the seed potatoes. So just set them on a plate, cut side up, and set them out to dry and scab over. And so I have quite a few more seed potatoes doing it this way. Now I could have also cut these into pieces, making sure that each piece has 2 or 3 eyes on it, but I didn't figure I needed all that many potatoes. This is really just an experiment to see if I know what I'm doing, and I don't really. I'm just doing what I'm told from other sources. So anyway, so all of these are no, not that. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces of Kennebec, which are white potatoes. And then these 4 pieces came from a russet potato, a baking potato that we bought from the grocery store. And it got lost in the back of the refrigerator, and it had started to grow some sprouts on it. Now I'm seeing that these have started to grow some mold on them. And Gary does say that if I wanted to use them, I could. All I had to do was spray them with a solution of hydrogen peroxide. I think, though, I'm not going to plant these. I just don't want to have anything interrupting the success of my first potato experiment. So I'm just going to stick with the red Norlands. These did not grow any mold on them. They just simply calloused over, got a little shrivelly. And so I'm not going to do the russets. So red Norland and these are the red Norland. These are the Kennebec. Excuse me, I misspoke earlier. All right, so to prepare the garden bed for potatoes, I've got a little bit of work to do. This is the section into which I'm going to be planting the potatoes. It's not very large. It's about 4 feet on that axis, 4 feet on that axis, and about 3 feet from the point up there down to this area. And from edge to edge around the curve, it's about 6 feet. So I don't know. It's I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Somebody do the math for me. Anyway, all right. So the soil here is, first of all, it's this native soil onto which we piled soil from down where the patio is. That soil got dug out and put into here. It was pretty good soil because down there had been a berm that was created with yard waste. So it was essentially a cold compost pile down there. So it was kind of mostly compost and some native soil. And then on top of that, there's about an inch of compost that we put on top of there last fall, and some shredded leaves from last fall. But looks like the shredded leaves have mostly blown off this winter and didn't actually decompose in here very much. So to prepare the soil for this, potatoes, I'm learning, are very heavy feeders. That means they want to have a lot of nutrients in the soil. So what I'm going to do is, on top of the soil that I have there, I'm going to be putting in some of this Job's Organics vegetable and tomato granular planting fertilizer. So this NPK is 253, so it's heavy on the P, the phosphorus, which is good because for tuber creating plants like potatoes, they want to have a lot of phosphorus. And if it was too heavy on the nitrogen, then it would grow more leaves than it would roots. So we want the roots to grow nicely. So I'm just using a handful here, 4 handfuls. And in the past, I've learned that my hands are about a quarter cup. So I put about a cup of this granular fertilizer into this area. And now I'm going to top dress it with this compost. Now this is leftover compost from last season. We ordered a bulk order of Leaf Grow, which is a local compost that's made of shredded leaves. So it's basically leaf mold. And so I'm just going to put an inch or two of this on top of here. First I'm going to remove this forget-me-not, although I do like forget-me-nots. All right. That's a 5-gallon bucket, roughly full, mostly full. And now I'm just going to use my digging fork to kind of smooth that out and fork it into the top layers of the soil. Now we want the soil to be workable down to about 6 inches or so. So I'm just going to go through here, put my fork in down 6 inches and just pull it up like that and just fork it up. This is just loosening the soil so that when we plant the potatoes, it'll be easy enough to get down in there, and also the loose soil will help the potatoes as they grow. I'm not really turning it over, I'm just kind of mixing it in place. I just watched Gary's video that he published today about planting potatoes in the ground. So it's his method that I'm using here. Gary's a gardener who lives in Columbia, Maryland, which is about 8 or 10 miles from where I live here in Baltimore. We lived in Columbia for a very long time. So he's local, so I can trust his weather advice about when to do things because he's very nearby. I'm hitting some rocks down in there, which doesn't sound or feel great. As I get over here on the shallower end, I'm hitting what was the original soil, which is a lesser quality of soil. You hear the rocks down in there? Over time, we'll be getting all those out, I'm sure. All right, so hopefully you can see this soil has just been loosened. It's kind of a modified, slightly dig, not really rototilling, not really no dig, but just loosening the soil so the potatoes have fluffy soil in which to grow. And now all I have to do, I've already prepared the soil with fertile compost and some granular fertilizer. Now all I need to do is plant, but I need to get my gloves. I have 4 of the red Norland, and I have 8 of the Kennebec. The red Norland are larger, the Kennebec are smaller. So it'll be an experiment to kind of see how they do, what they do, based on what size I'm putting them in. Now, potatoes want to be spaced about 8 to 12 inches apart. You can put them closer together, like 6 inches together. According to Gary, what happens is the more closely you put them together, the smaller your potatoes grow. So I'm going to aim for roughly, well, actually, I don't know what I'm going to aim for. I'm going to lay them out here and see how they fit, really. So let's see. All right, I think that's what I'm going to do. I've got the 8 Kennebecks here and the 4 red Norlands over there. And for now, because I don't have my markers out here, I'm going to do that so that I can remember where the divider is between the different varieties. I'll do something more permanent later. Okay, now it's just a matter of putting them in. So I'm going to dig a hole that's roughly 6 inches deep. My spade is 6 inches deep, so I'll dig a hole that is the depth of my spade, like that. Pull that soil out of there. I'm going to lay the potato down in there so that the shoots are pointing up. That one didn't go all the way down before my dirt refilled, so let me push it down there a little bit better. There we go. So this is just a little, teeniest little piece of potato. I might not get very many potatoes off of that. We'll have to see. The next thing I need to do is get out my watering can and my fish emulsion liquid water-soluble fertilizer and water this in really deeply with some really good organic water-soluble fertilizer. You don't have to use organic if you don't want to, but that's what I choose for my garden. So I'll water this in, and then it's a matter of waiting for those sprouts to work their way through the warming soil and come up and then make green plants. The plants live through about 70 to 90 days worth of growing, and at that time they start to die back and turn yellow, and that's when you know the potatoes are ready to start harvesting. If we get a frost, then the potatoes will be just fine underground. And as long as they haven't emerged yet with their green leaves, it'll be fine. I don't have to do anything for the potatoes during a frost evening. But if I do have greens above ground and we get a frost, then I need to cover them with some sort of protection from the cold so that the leaves don't get taken by the cold weather. So the timing of when to plant your potatoes, it depends on what your preferred method is. One way to do it is to plant them as soon as the soil can be worked in the spring and then protect them from a frost after the greens emerge while you're still in your possible frost period. Another way to do it is to plant them about 2 weeks before your average last frost, and that means that on average your last frost will be 2 weeks later. They may not have emerged from the ground yet, but if they do, then you may not get a frost. So, and you can also succession plant potatoes. They take about 90 days to mature. So you can put more in this same location after these are done in late June or so, and grow them through the summer. Or you can succession plant them like a month apart in different parts of the garden so that you always have a steady supply of fresh potatoes. And that might work really well if you, like me, are putting them into a smallish kind of an area. I have no idea how many potatoes we're going to get out of this planting, but I can't imagine that this would be anything close to enough potatoes to last through the winter. So if you are gardening on a small scale like me, succession planting every month or so might be a great idea to keep yourself in fresh potatoes. So I'm just going to get these watered in, and then I'm going to let Mother Nature do her work. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that this is interesting to you, or useful or informative. But really, if you're trying to learn how to grow potatoes in the ground, I really recommend that you go to Gary Pilarchik's channel, The Rustic Garden, and learn from him. He is the master. I am the learner in this scenario. Do you have potatoes growing in your garden? Have you ever done it before? Let me know how you grow your potatoes, when you plant them compared to your frost dates, and all of that information. We'd love to learn from you and what has worked for you as well. Thanks for joining me today. Have a wonderful day in your garden, friends, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.